We're with the British military about to take off on this helicopter to the high north, where the UK Royal Navy's flagship aircraft carrier is patrolling for Russian threats. These bright orange suits will help them locate us in case of an emergency landing or a crash. NATO is detecting a growing Russian presence in this Arctic waterway, one of the world's most contested areas. UK officials accuse Russia of launching nefarious submarine operations targeting important underwater assets, and say Moscow is trying to catch the UK off guard at a time when the world is focused on instability in the Middle East. We've been given rare access to NATO's closest aircraft carrier in this region, the HMS Prince of Wales, as it sails into the high north for a 3-month deployment to prevent further escalation.
We are in an increasingly sort of perilous age. In a turbulent world, we need to make sure we are ready.
We're here on the deck of the HMS Prince of Wales, which belongs to the UK Royal Navy. They're flying F-35 jets towards the Arctic. The jets launch from a ski jump ramp. And once they return, they hover in the air like large insects before touching down vertically on the deck. These F-35s are an advantage for NATO in the high north, because they can track targets earlier than radars mounted on bases or other ships can. Once reaching a height of 30,000 feet, the jets can scan the skies for threats for hundreds of miles. Meanwhile, the carriers, helicopters and frigates use sonar to detect submarines and other threats under the sea, such as unmanned drones. This capability is increasingly important for NATO. Since Russia's all-out invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Moscow has launched a hybrid war of cyber attacks, arson and sabotage, and drone incursions over airports and military installations. The high north is particularly vulnerable. Russia has a powerful fleet of nuclear-powered submarines based here, and is expanding its military infrastructure across the region. The West is racing to catch up.
Threat now has never been greater since the time of the Cold War. I think what we're doing now is calling out those threats. We know where they're taking place, we're watching that activity, and the UK Carrier Strike Group, supported by our NATO members, will remain in these areas as long as that activity continues. Whether that be sort of underwater activity with regards to seabed activity, whether that's threats to our critical national infrastructure. Part of the Carrier Strike Group's mission is to show that we can operate in these areas unimpeded, at a moment's choice, change our direction, go further north, proceed further west, and monitor those activities around. And the team on here are doing that on a 24-hour basis.
Undersea cables were cut in the Baltics multiple times in 2024 by vessels dragging their anchors over the seabed. One incident was linked to a Russian tanker and another a Chinese cargo ship. The UK and allies have also detected unusual Russian activity in the high north and North Atlantic. Last year, a Russian spy ship passed through British waters and floated over undersea cables and pipelines, according to the UK's then Defence Secretary. The Russian embassy in the UK denied any wrongdoing at that time.
I think it's been acknowledged that there's been an increase in Russian activity in the North Atlantic and the high north. I think roughly a 30% increase over the last several years. Whether it's submarines, whether it's Russian surface vessels, whether it's shadow fleet activity, we have seen all of those things increasing.
But as NATO allies push to defend against Russia, there's an elephant in the room. They're also caught in the crosshairs of the US, with President Trump's repeated threats to take over Greenland, a territory of the Kingdom of Denmark.
It's the United States alone that can protect this giant mass of land, this giant piece of ice, develop it and improve it and make it so that it's good for Europe and safe for Europe and good for us. And that's the reason I'm seeking immediate negotiations to once again discuss the acquisition of Greenland by the United States.
This operation, this exercise now is obviously addressing Russia, or it's aimed at deterring Russia. But we've also in recent months, over the past 18 months, seen threats from the US, a NATO country, against Greenland, which belongs to Denmark, another NATO ally. Have these threats had an impact on military relations within the NATO alliance between European countries, namely the UK and the US?
So from what I can speak to with regards to, as the commander of the UK Carrier Strike Group, our relationships with the US have never been stronger. We operate together, we train together, in addition to other NATO members, but particularly with regards to the Carrier Strike Group. And as I've said, we'll be traveling to the US in the next few months to work with them and carrying our training together.
There are 9 decks in the lower levels of the carrier, connected by a labyrinth of tunnel-like corridors spanning the size of 3 soccer pitches. Over 1,000 people are on board, including doctors and chefs. There are spin classes and a chapel. People who are struggling, they can go and have a conversation with the priest, and the priest also serves to keep up the morale on the ship, which can obviously be a challenge if it's away from shore. There's also a control room where soldiers monitor for signs of hostile activity. So what's going on here, like on these screens?
So what we're seeing here is effectively the airports, as you can see by the symbology, and that's effectively showing us where civilian air traffic is, and they follow these air lanes. That effectively helps us identify what can be civilian, and if something's straying from that, what are its intentions from there on, and also where they join up with different international links, which helps us identify what's civilian, what can be friendly military or even adversary.
In early July, the ship's jets intercepted a Russian plane approaching the vessel repeatedly and dropping a large number of sonar devices near the carrier. The UK Ministry of Defence says that attempts to contact the aircraft were unsuccessful and the plane was escorted away by F-35 jets. Defending the Arctic is uniquely challenging. In wintertime, much of the territory on land and large parts of the ocean will be transformed into an icy wilderness, unforgiving to soldiers and their vehicles. An aircraft carrier like the Prince of Wales can help and act as a mobile airfield without having to rely on land bases.
It's a uniquely difficult place to operate, whether that's the water column is quite a complex place to operate because you have melting ice which changes the salinity layers in the sea, which makes it difficult to both detect and track submarines, whether it's the constant daylight in the summer or the near constant darkness in the winter. All of those things make operating here really challenging, which is why we should do it more so that we become more proficient.
Some defence analysts say the UK's ambitions to protect the waterway are held back because it doesn't have enough ships. At the end of the Cold War, the British Navy had 3 aircraft carriers, more than 50 escort ships and over a dozen submarines. Now it has 2 carriers, 13 escort ships, of which only 5 are operational at any one time, and 10 submarines. And the current fleet has also faced technical issues. There's been a lot of criticism recently of this ship and also the other aircraft carrier, the Queen Elizabeth. How prepared is Britain when it comes to facing Russia?
We have multiple new frigates currently being built in Govan shipyard in Scotland, and as well as that we have a suite of hybrid capabilities where we are increasing the use of uncrewed systems. This is an incredibly complex platform. We have thousands of kilometres of cabling is but one example. I make decisions every day in terms of both keeping the platform safe, the ship safe and the crew safe, but also being able to ensure I can deliver my mission. You are on board a 5th generation aircraft carrier with a tanker 30 metres away from me with a 5th generation air wing. There are very few nations on this planet that can use this level of maritime capability. The United Kingdom is one of those nations.